Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of AB in the Films. You know, back in the first season of this show, I did an episode called My Top 10 Favorite Horror Films. And I never really reviewed them. I just did the sound effects or the catchphrases from those movies, and it was a really quick episode. Never really went into an in-depth conversation about them or a discussion about them. And I felt, well, it's Halloween, and I just did the Alfred Hitchcock my top 5 favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies, why not go into an in-depth discussion about these films? Because that really wasn't a review that I did 8 years ago. That was just me doing the catchphrases of these movies. I never explained why I like them or why I think they're great or why I watch them every Halloween. So this is the top 10 favorite horror films discussion. Alien. I was 7 years old when I saw this movie for the first time. My dad had it on television, and we were watching it. And by we, I mean my dad, myself, and my sister. My sister was 3.5 years old. 3.5 to 4 years old when we saw this movie. We saw it on TV. A lot of the language was cut out, but not that chestburster scene, and we didn't see it coming. And you're probably wondering, why would your father let you watch that movie at that young of an age? Well, you know what? My dad didn't always make the best decisions. I mean, he always felt that, well, if it's on TV, they'll edit it out. If it's an R-rated movie, they'll cut it out. It won't be that bad. Now, for me, I was 7. So I had already seen Jaws. So I liked scary movies, and I liked movies, and okay, this is a new one. Takes place in space. All right, this should be good. We're watching the movie, and we watched it about halfway through. It was on TV, and we started it. It was right at the part where they get Kane back on the ship. Okay, after the face hugger is on him. All right. So we're watching the movie, and he wakes up, and they're all having dinner. And I'll never forget this. My dad told me, he said, okay, guys, listen. The part that's coming up, it's all fake, okay? It's not real. It's all fake, but watch what happens. And I said, okay, is something scary going to happen? And he goes, just watch. And I'm sitting on the couch with the blanket up like this.
Oh, God!
It could have been really happening. That's how realistic that scene looks. No CGI, all practical effects, the way it should be done in movies. My sister ran right up the stairs, screaming and crying, terrified. And my mom, oh my gosh, my mom was, she's like, what's going on down there? No, turn that off, turn it off, she's terrified, turn that off. And we turned it off, but I wanted to see what happened next. But my dad had to turn it off. And he felt terrible. He didn't think we would have that reaction because, you know, he really thought they would edit most of that scene out, but they didn't. It was in. The language was edited out because it was on TV, but they did not edit that scene at all. And my sister was terrified, but I really wanted to finish the movie. And I didn't end up finishing the movie until maybe a year or two later. My dad rented it, and we wanted to see the rest of it. My sister wasn't in the room, but I finally got around to seeing the rest of it when I was a kid. But I'll never forget that. That was the first time I ever saw Alien. This is a movie that takes place in space. These astronauts are they're coming back home, and they're supposed to pick up a transmission. And an alien gets on board, but it's not the alien that's the face hugger. It's something else. And we've all seen this movie And personally, I think this movie is better than Aliens. And don't get me wrong, that's a great movie. That's the only good sequel that exists from Alien. But I like Alien a little more. It's a great movie, great performances, and I think it's one of the best horror films, and I watch it every Halloween. Next one. Psycho. Okay, you've already seen me talk about this in my favorite Hitchcock movies episode. Not much to say. I love the camera angles, love what Alfred Hitchcock is doing in this movie, love the performances from Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh and Vera Miles and John Gavin and everybody. I mean, it's just a great, all-around great movie. Love this film a lot. It's one of my favorite Hitchcock films. I think everybody loves this movie. It's such a great movie to watch, especially around Halloween. Next one. The Sixth Sense. I don't think this movie is scary. It's definitely a thriller, but it's actually kind of a sweet movie if you think about it. I was 6 years old when this came out. I remember seeing previews for it. I remember seeing advertisements for it. But I didn't end up seeing the film until I was about maybe 12 or 13. The movie really didn't scare me. But the trailer, when you're 6 years old and you watch this...
A lady, she broke her neck.
Oh my God, but you can see her?
Yes.
Where is she?
Standing next to my window. I see dead people walking around like regular people.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there?
They're everywhere.
That trailer would give me nightmares. I remember that preview. I remember that would be on coming attractions on a video cassette from a movie we rented at Blockbuster one time, back when it was new. So this was 20 years ago, pretty much. I mean, the movie was 1999, so it was 20 years ago. But, oh man, that trailer spooked me. I remember that. But the movie, what do I think about the movie? It's wonderful. It really is a wonderful movie. And again, much like Psycho, major twist ending. If you haven't seen this movie, you probably already know the twist ending. If you don't know the twist ending, I suggest you check this movie out. It's very, very good. Bruce Willis is great in this. I mean, he's great in a lot of movies, but I really like him in this. Haley Joel Osment's great in this as well, and he's only like 9 years old, I think. But as we all know from the trailers, Cole, the little boy, he sees dead people, and that's his sixth sense. And his doctor, who is Bruce Willis, is trying to help him with that. But what I like about this movie is I really like the dialogue scenes between the two of them. Yeah, it's slow. I mean, a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies are slow like that. But this film, I really like. I really like scenes when Malcolm and Cole are together and they're just talking. Like the scene when Cole comes in and he goes, "You want to play a game? It's a mind reading game. If I'm saying I'm reading your mind, and if what I say is true, you take one step towards me, and if what I say is wrong, you take 2 steps back. You want to play?" And it's really like it's a way of stating exposition in the script, I think, but it's very well done here, and I really like scenes like that. There's a couple of scenes in this movie that are like that. And when it needs to be suspenseful, it can be. It can be suspenseful. You know, like he sees the dead people and we can see them too. And it can get a little, I don't want to say scary, because that's really not the word. I mean, like, I wasn't scared. I mean, I was 12, 13 when I finally saw the film, because I'd been watching the trailer since the movie came out, and I was 6. Okay, so if I had seen this movie when I was 6, yeah, you bet I would have been scared of this movie. But no, it's not like that. It's a very good movie. The scene with Cole and his mom in the car at the end of the movie, that's one of the best scenes in the film. aside from the twist ending, which really, like, you know, I'm friends with a guy who saw that movie in the theater, and he saw that coming. And he's the first person I've ever met that actually admitted to me, oh, I saw that coming as soon as the movie started. And I'm like, really? Because everybody else I talked to didn't see it coming. And here's the part that stings for me. That twist was spoiled for me before I saw the movie. Right before I sat down and watched it. So it was ruined for me. So if you don't know that twist ending, you probably do. Everybody knows it. But if you don't, and you haven't seen the film, definitely watch it. The Sixth Sense, it's one of my favorite films. Watch it every Halloween. You know, I'm going to repeat that. I watch every one of these movies that I'm about to talk about every Halloween. Every Halloween I watch them. Next one. The Silence of the Lambs. You know, when this film came out, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, two of the best movie critics on the planet, sadly no more, but at the time, they didn't like this movie. They didn't think it was scary. They didn't think it was that interesting when it comes to talking about serial killers. They thought Anthony Hopkins' character portrayal of Hannibal Lecter was over the top, and yeah, it can be at times, but they didn't go for it. The movie wins Best Picture, 5 Oscars, and it's regarded as one of the scariest films of all time. And I think that's going a little too far nowadays. I mean, at the time, I can see that, because in 1991, I don't think you saw too many movies like this, but nowadays, watch Silence of the Lambs now. I don't think it would be that scary now, but at the time, yeah, I can see that. Jodie Foster is Clarice Starling, FBI agent, and she's investigating a missing person and to find the killer. She has to talk to Hannibal Lecter, which is the doctor for one of the guy that she's chasing. And I'm gonna tell you right now, all the scenes between Clarice and Hannibal are great.
I'll help you catch him, Clary.
Believe me, you don't want Hannibal Lecter inside your head.
I don't care if Anthony Hopkins can be over the top. I still buy it. And again, you know, he's not really that scary. In fact, I think Buffalo Bill is actually 10 times scarier because he's the psychotic one. He's the one that's doing the kidnapping. He's the one that's, you know, insane. But Hannibal Lecter, I wouldn't say he's an accomplice. He's not. He's just the one that's there to give her information. But again, he, you know, quid pro quo. You know, you tell me something, I'll tell you something. You know, all those scenes are great. Especially the scene when she tells him about when she ran away from the farm.
You think if Catherine lives, you won't wake up in the dark ever again to that awful screaming of the lambs?
I don't know.
Thank you, Clary.
Yeah, really love this movie. It's one of my favorites. Next one. Carrie. This was Stephen King's first book. This was John Travolta's first film. And, you know, watching it, you know, it's interesting. I saw this movie when I was a kid, and there were a lot of things that went over my head. Like, I know it's rated R, and there's a couple of things in here that I guess a 9-year-old male isn't going to get. But, you know, everyone talks about Sissy Spacek, you know, like, she really is, like, when she, you know, I feel so sorry for this character. I really do, because she gets bullied constantly, and they finally get their karma at the prom scene, which is awesome. But, you know, most of the time, maybe it's the music, but the way Brian De Palma shoots this, I just feel so sorry for Sissy Spacek. I really do. I feel bad for this character because all this girl wants to do is fit in and have friends. But, you know, she's a loner. She doesn't really know how to talk to people. And her mother is partially to blame. I mean, her mother is psychotic. Piper Laurie as Margaret White is psychotic in this movie. She nails this role. She's crazy as they come. But, you know, I just feel, maybe it's that piano music that they play in the movie, but I just feel bad for her. But I will say this, during that prom scene, when De Palma does the split screen, and you're seeing, like, what she's seeing and what she's doing, like, the look on her face, like, dude, it is legitimately creepy, the way she looks, like, covered in the blood and all that. It is creepy, I gotta say. But, you know, and it's very 70s. I mean, this came out in 76, but again, love this movie. I heard that when Stephen King wrote this, I think he threw it out in the garbage, like the treatment for this book, because this was his first book, I think. And I think that when, this is what I heard that when he threw it in the trash because he didn't think it was going to be anything, and his wife found it. His wife trash picked it and said, "No, this is good." And look what happened. But you know what? Carrie's a great film. One of my favorite films from Brian De Palma. Yeah, great performances, and that prom scene is forever and great. In fact, I think, you know, if it wasn't for this film, I guarantee you the movie Prom Night from 1980 wouldn't exist. I guarantee you that movie wouldn't exist without this film. No way. And they're not even connected. Next one. Okay, I'm kind of cheating on this one because it's 4 movies, not 1, so it's one whole series. The Scream series. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. They either like this franchise or they think it's boring as can be. When I was 12, again, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, that was my horror movie phase, okay? I was really into movies, really into directors and the horror genre, and just movies in general, especially horror movies. And even though Scream, I don't consider the Scream movies horror movies, they're lampooning horror movies is what they're doing. They try to be scary, but they're not scary. The people that are doing the murdering are psychotic, especially at the end. Especially, you know, in the first one and in the fourth one. The people that are doing the killing, they're crazy. The second one and the third one, not so much. But in the first one and the fourth one, yes, I can definitely say that. These are all done by Wes Craven. In fact, Wes Craven's final film was Scream 4. He sadly passed away 4 years ago after Scream 4 came out. But I've seen Ghostface before. I've seen that famous Halloween mask, you know. I didn't know it was from these movies. So I remember, like, when I saw the first Scream when I was about 12, 13 years old, and Ghostface shows up, I'm like, oh, that's where that's from. Oh, okay, I get it. I've seen that before in Halloween stores and stuff. That's where it's from. Okay, I get it. Here's what I think of these movies. First one, I really do like. I mean, the opening scene with Drew Barrymore, we all know that scene. We all remember it. You know, what's your favorite scary movie? We all know that. The rest of the movie, yeah, it's kind of boring. It kind of is setting up characters and all that. It does get kind of boring. I thought Jamie Kennedy as Randy was by far my favorite character, by far. Because he's the film nerd. And, you know, and he works at a video store and he's talking about all the rules of, you know, horror movies. In fact, one of my favorite scenes in the film is when it's towards the end of the movie when they're having like a party and they're all sitting around, they're watching Halloween. And Randy turns around and he's like, "What? You don't know the rules? There are certain rules to successfully survive a scary movie."
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back." Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
You see, you push the laws and you end up dead.
Yeah, great movie. I really thought Scream was pretty good. Second one, I thought it was okay. It was alright. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it, but it had its moments. Third one, I thought was, okay, we're kind of doing the same thing now. But, you know, here's what's interesting about these movies. The first one makes fun of the rules and stuff that happens in scary movies, cliches, and mistakes in scary movies. And these kids are smart enough to say, well, wait a minute, if this was a scary movie, we're not going to do this. We're going to make new mistakes. And that's pretty much what they do. The second one makes fun of sequels of scary movies. The third one mocks trilogies with scary movies. And the fourth one, made 11 years later after part 3, mocks all the reboots and remakes of horror movies. And I thought that was clever. That's a clever way of doing Scream 4. And I saw Scream 4 in the theaters. I was so hyped to see it, and I saw it, and I love it. I love it. Scream 4 is the best sequel from this whole series, the fourth one. I know that's shocking to say, but I really enjoyed the fourth one. I felt like it was going back to what the first one did, and it was nice to see those characters again, to see Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette. It was nice to see those characters back again, because we haven't seen them for so long. So yeah, I really like the Scream movies. I really do. And they do have a lot of funny moments in it, and it tries to be like a horror movie, but it's not. But it call it a guilty pleasure of mine. I do like all four of these movies, and I watch them every single Halloween I watch them. Next one. Misery. Man. Kathy Bates is psychotic in this film.
I don't want her, Smith! I want her! And you murdered her!
This is something I think a lot of people can relate to, especially famous people. You know, what would happen if you had a crazy fan come after you, and you're all alone, you can't escape it, there's nowhere to go, you can't call for help, and your legs are broken. You're not going anywhere. That's pretty scary. James Caan and Kathy Bates are great in this. The way they act off each other. Most of the movie is just the two of them. I mean, really. I mean, aside from Richard Farnsworth and Lauren Bacall, it's really just the two of them in this movie, and he's just trying to fight for his life to get out of this. James Caan plays famous writer, Paul Sheldon, and he's famous for these Misery books that he writes about the character, Misery Chastain, and he writes about her, and he's driving, and he gets caught in a snowstorm, and he's saved, he's badly injured, but he's saved by this woman who lives in town, and she just happens to be his #1 fan, and she's also a nurse, and they start off really... They don't have a relationship or anything, but they kind of have like this kind of friendship thing going on, and slowly but surely she starts to act up a little bit, like a little kind of, okay, on edge, and then it's just, the woman is psychotic.
I know you've been out. Is this what you're looking for? Eventually, you'll come to accept the idea of being here.
Annie, whatever you're thinking about doing, please don't do it.
Oh man, I still scream every time, like, ugh, like because you see the foot go, you see that, even though you know it's a fake one, but the sound effects, like, you just, oh god, I can't watch that. It's so crazy. But yeah, this is definitely a good movie, and especially at the end when they're fighting and he burns something. I don't want to ruin it, but and then he takes it and he tries to shove it into her mouth, and he's like, "You want it? Eat it till you choke, you sick, twisted." Like oh, that's such a great line. I can't say it here, but oh, that's such a great line. So yeah, Misery, love that one. Next one. The Blair Witch Project.
I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them.
I'm going to say right now, there are a lot of people that do not like this movie, that don't find it scary. The shaky cam is too much for them. I understand. I love this film. Love it. I love that it does so little. I mean, I think this movie was made for like, I think $25,000. It shows. It shows. Like, the fact that this movie had a budget, period, like, shocked me. But what I love about this film, absolutely love, aside from the fact that it's about, you know, these three filmmakers that get lost in the woods making a documentary about the Blair Witch legend, and it turns out that there's something in the woods. What could it be? you know, this was the film this made a ton of money at the box office. I can't believe this movie's 20 years old now. I remember when it was brand new. This movie, I think this movie basically, I don't think it invented it, but it definitely made the found footage genre of scary movies, not just scary movies, but movies in general, because Cloverfield, I guess, counts as one, popular. It made it popular. So 3 student filmmakers are making a documentary about the Blair Witch, and they go into the woods to get some shots, and they get lost, and there's no way out. Now, by the way, this movie takes place in the early 90s, so there's no cell phones, nothing like that. They can't get out, and it's a little scary. But what I like about it, and here's the thing, I know this movie's fake. I know it's fake. But at the time, you have to remember, where the internet was at the time, people thought this was real. They really did. They had an ingenious marketing campaign for this movie to market it on the internet so that when people went to see the movie, they thought they were seeing something real. They really did. That was genius. Because it got the people in the seats and it got them to think it was real. And it does look real. It really does. But here's what I love. Watch this movie again. Put the shaky cam thing aside. I know it's going to be hard for some people, but put that aside for a minute. Really watch the movie. If you watch the movie and you see little things that they talk about, it might be there for just a second, but there are things in the story of the plot of this movie, not just the legend of the Blair Witch, but the story in general. Watch them talk about these things. They come back later in the story. And it can be a genius scare, or it can be a twist, or it can be something that you didn't really think about before because it was just mentioned for like a split second in a scene earlier, and now it's here to really nail them. It's really good that way. I really like that. Like there's a scene, I'll give you an example. There's a scene where they're interviewing people, and they're asking them about questions about the Blair Witch, and they say that they're talking about the legends. Everything they're talking about happens later when they're in the woods. And there's something else, and this kind of creeped me out a little bit. And again, it's really hard to hear, but if you turn the volume up all the way, I think this happens on like the 3rd or 4th night they're lost in the woods. It's in the middle of the night when they're in the tent. If you turn it up, right before Heather gasps, she goes, "What is that? What's out there?" If you turn it up really loud and listen, you can hear not just leaves rustling, but you can hear the sound of children laughing and playing and running around, like it coming from a distance. And this is at like 1 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the woods at night. It's creepy as hell, man. It's really creepy. And I know it's fake. I know it's fake. I know the people that are shaking the tent are the directors, you know, and all that. In fact, I heard that when they were making this movie, the directors of this film and the producers, I think, they gave the film to the 3 actors, and they said, just shoot. And in the middle of the night, they would find them in the woods, and they would do all the scary stuff. And what you're seeing on film is the real reaction. They were legitimately scared, like, because they're not really that good actors. I mean, like, I'm gonna give them credit for the scary moments. I mean, you believe they're scared. In the beginning, not so much, but when they're in the woods and they're lost, oh man, it's good. It's good, especially when they get to the cabin at the end. I mean, oh man, was that... And again, you know, because I'm a big film fanatic, and I really I love the fact that it's doing so much with so little. I like that. It's a low-budget horror movie. And a lot of low-budget horror movies I'm not crazy about, because usually they're not that good. And some people, yeah, they don't like the Blair Witch Project. I can understand that. But as a film fanatic and a movie buff, I love this movie. I watch this movie every Halloween. Love this film. Next one. Halloween. If you watch Halloween, there's a lot of references to Psycho in this, if you think about it. I mean, Michael Myers has a butcher knife. Jamie Lee Curtis is the star. Janet Leigh's real-life daughter. Michael Myers' doctor's name is Dr. Samuel Loomis. Marion Crane's boyfriend in Psycho. You know, like, there's a lot of, like, and you start to wonder, I bet you that was done on purpose. I bet you it was. Jamie Lee Curtis is, I think this was her first film, actually. This was her first movie, yeah. She plays Laurie, who's a high school student. She's off to babysit this kid and on Halloween night, and apparently someone has returned home on Halloween night that used to live there. Not at the house, but on that street. And it's Michael Myers. We all know who Michael Myers is. He's the crazy killer with the butcher knife who just breathes like Darth Vader. He doesn't say anything. He just breathes very loudly. And so I love this film. I watch this film every Halloween. I watch Halloween and Halloween 2 every single Halloween. The 1978 and the 1981 version, not the 07 and 09 version. That didn't happen. Forget those. Love the movie. Love the music. Love that killer. We all love Michael Myers. Next one. The Exorcist. I saw this movie when I was 12. I wasn't scared, but oh man, that is one messed up movie.
You killed your mother!
Your servant.
You left her alone to die!
Shut
up! I'll never forgive you!
Shut up! I command you, by the judge of the living and the dead, to depart from this servant. The power of Christ compels you!
All the performances from Max von Sydow and Linda Blair, and oh man, the last 10, 15 minutes of the film. No, I think it's the last half hour of the film when they're in the bedroom with Reagan and the power of Christ compels you and all that. Oh man, that was a crazy scene. And I gotta ask you, why was the spider walk scene cut out? That was a great shot. That was a great scene. You know, it's in TV versions of when it's on TV, but in the film it was cut out, the final version of that. That was a good scene when she, you know, the spider walk scene down and blood's coming out of her mouth. That was pretty messed up. The one thing that did creep me out was, because again, you know, it takes some time before Reagan gets possessed by the devil and all that, but, you know, I just remember the one thing that kind of creeped me out a little bit, like, wow, man, that was creepy, when she's like banging all over on the bed. Oh my God! Like, guys, when this came out, I heard that when this movie originally came out, by the way, this movie came out on Christmas Day, if you can believe that. Christmas Day, 1973. Why would you release this on Christmas Day of 1973? So it comes out, people were vomiting in the theaters, people were running out of the theater, people were running out of this theater and into the church, scared to death of this movie. That's how realistic it looks, because it's all practical effects, not CGI. It's terrifying. By the way, the scene when her head turns around, I mean, my gosh, and you know, all the smoke that you see when they're breathing, it's so cold in the room, you see their breath. They had so many air conditioners in the room to like get the room to be that cold, because again, it's 1972, 1973. You didn't have CGI. Nowadays, you could just digitally put the breath in. But in those days, it was done on film. It had to be cold. You know, so they had to do that. And the vomit was all pea soup. They had like a tube that ran up to Linda Blair's mouth and it came out. They put makeup over the tube to hide it. Like, behind the scenes of movies are a lot of fun, aren't they? Lots of fun. So, The Exorcist, I love this movie. I love this movie. I love the music, that Tubular Bells music. I mean, it's right up there with the music from Halloween, Psycho, Jaws. I mean, everybody knows this theme. Everybody knows it. And it's just, oh man, it's such... It truly is one of the scariest movies of all time, and it definitely still holds up. There's a lot of scary moments in this film, and it's just... Yeah, it's a good movie. Really good one. So that's my top 10 horror films explained version, because I didn't explain all these 8 years ago when I did this review. But I hope you guys enjoy my explanation of these top 10 favorite horror films, and I will see you guys in the next review when I talk about the next top 10 favorite films I watch around Halloween. And I call it that because not all of them are scary. I will see you guys in that review later.